Hi, this is Joe Hyde with San Angelo Live. I have J.Ross Lacy here. And Ross, that's what we go by, right?
J.Ross.
You go by J.Ross?
Go by J.Ross.
Okay. J.Ross is going to be running for Congress in the 11th Congressional District. And y'all may not know, if you haven't been filled in, Congressman Mike Conaway, who's been our congressman since about 2005. He's not going to run for re-election. So we have a whole lot of people entering the field. And J.Ross here from Midland, Texas.
Midland, Texas.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about, you're on the city council. So tell me about getting on the city council and some of the challenges you've seen there.
Okay, well, Joe, about 7 years ago, I was 30 years old and was kind of just looking around my city and didn't really think that there was anybody on the city council that represented my age group or represented the demographic. And when you look at Midland, Texas right now, the average age is 32 years old. So it's gotten notoriously younger and younger. And so I ran against a two-term incumbent that was 75 at the time. So there was a clear contrast in age right there. And we won that race 60-40. I ran unopposed for my second term, so I'm finishing up the final year of my second term right now.
What are some of the issues that you've seen hit the Midland City Council, I guess? I mean, in Midland, obviously Midland compared to San Angelo, a little bit higher growth, probably higher peaks and lower valleys for the oil business.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, right now we're looking at population growth of 5 to 6% due to the oil and gas industry just completely booming out there. We've seen a deterioration of our infrastructure in that area. We've seen an influx of individuals.
So talk about the deterioration of the infrastructure. You mean potholes?
Oh, potholes and just roads falling apart. We have unbelievable truck traffic in that area. You look at the stretch of I-20 between Midland and Ector County, it's a very small portion of the overall mileage of I-20, but it accounts for 11% of the fatalities in the state of Texas. And so when you look at numbers like that, there's a lot of truck traffic, there's a lot of people there, a lot of congestion. Just, there's double the amount of people in Midland, Texas today than there was when I graduated high school there.
All right, so as far as what would you consider yourself? You're obviously running as a Republican. So on the city council there in Midland, would you consider yourself a conservative?
Oh, absolutely. I've been a lifelong conservative Republican my entire life.
So what kind of, here in San Angelo, I mean, I'll just tell you, we come up against things like, spending money here and there. We had a gigantic controversy over our trash contract here. Those are some of the things that have hit the city council. But everyone always claims the city wastes money. Everyone always claims it's a spend. Have you seen some of that biases in particularly like city, I guess the city management kind of thing? They're all part of the TML cabal, I guess we call it.
Yeah.
So, and what have you done to hold the line on that?
Well, I've been the only one that's actually cut $1.8 million out of a annual budget. I got that pushed through when we were going through an economic cooling period because the price of oil was down. Right. I saw a need to cut the budget. I will say that the city of Midland's budget is pretty appropriate for the overall growth that they're seeing in that area. We're building over 1,000 new homes a year coming this area. There's over 4,500 housing units being built in Midland, Texas alone just because of the growth we're seeing there. And so it's hard to compare Midland to any other city right now just because of the hyperbolic growth that we're seeing in the city.
Right.
But, we're not really seeing that around the whole District 11. That's mainly just focused on the core areas where the Midland and Odessa, and, then if you go further west to some cities that aren't part of the District 11, but the Delaware Basin, there's just a lot of influx of people moving in because how prolific the Permian Basin is in an oil and gas producer.
I'm going to ask one more question on the municipal side, because I mean this is local news. What do you do about housing in Midland? I mean, isn't it like just the price of homes high and rents high?
The price of homes are high. There's nothing government can do, and I don't support rent controls. They're illegal in Texas for a reason. People say, well, they do them in California and New York, not two states that I really consider ourselves to model our government practice after. The best way to do it is to eliminate the red tape and the bureaucracy and let a developer go through the process as fast as possible. It takes anywhere from 13 to 18 months from start to finish to get a home built. We need to get that under 13 months, and we've been working on that by streamlining our process using technology to our advantage, because within the city of Midland we're 20% underemployed across the board of all of our departments because we have to compete with the high-paying jobs of the oil and gas.
Which is the problem we have here. We can't fill our potholes in San Angelo because we can't keep the guys that we hire for the crews long enough. They'll go to the oil field.
They'll go to the oil field or go to other jobs. So, and that's a broken record for all cities across District 11 in the state of Texas. And so it's critical that you have to do incentive pays. We do COLAs, 3% one-time COLAs where it gives a check to that employee to kind of help them out because it is expensive. We've just increased our officers' wages starting October 1. We're going to go from 14 out of 20 in our peer groups to 7 out of 20, and bringing them up to $63,000 a year starting pay. Very high pay.
Don't say that too loud here in San Angelo.
Well, we're 50 short in Midland right now.
Well, that's really good. You're still in city council?
Yeah, on city council until the end of November, and then I will resign with about a month left so I can officially file to run for Congress.
Okay, so all about the city council. Obviously, when you're in the fire and you're fighting the fire, you're gonna have people that are gonna say, "Hey, this is what he did." So let's talk about one of the things I heard about the Midland Spaceport. $20 million. Where is that, and what was your involvement in that?
So all that money was done prior to me being on the city council. So some individuals that like to highlight it need to actually do some fact checking. Realize that was done in July of 2013, and I didn't get on council until January.
So the controversy is that Midland wanted to position its airport as a spaceport and get a company to come in there. So it was an economic development gamble, and bring a company in there to, I guess, build a spaceport.
We have a spaceport.
Okay.
We're the only commercial operated spaceport in the world.
So what makes the Midland airport a spaceport?
Our designation. All of the airlines could quit flying in tomorrow. We're still an airport. You don't have to have airplanes to be an airport.
Right.
So we do have a company there called AST and Science, which we brought in. The X-Corps debacle was done prior to me being on city council.
Right.
I wouldn't have supported it.
And X-Corps is the company that was hired that went bankrupt.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so, but I wasn't on council when that was agreed to, whenever they signed all the incentives, because I wouldn't agree to them. What company we do have there now is AST and Science, and they're a CubeSat manufacturing company where they build small satellites for telecommunications. That's with the DoD and some other departments of the federal government, and they're going to be building up to 100,000 satellites a year at the spaceport, with 2 other companies that are about to announce they're coming there as well too.
But still, what makes it a spaceport? Can I land a spaceship there?
Yeah.
Is that the deal?
You can do a horizontal landing and takeoff of a space shuttle at the Midland International Air and Spaceport.
Gotcha.
So vertical, most of them are done through vertical launch, and that's done in Van Horn, down in Brownsville, because you really need to have kind of a wide open area. If you have a catastrophic event, the first 1,500 feet around the shuttle is the vaporized zone. Nothing will be left. So you really don't want to do that by high populated areas. But for horizontal landing and takeoff, that's exactly what our runways can be used for. We're already compatible for the Dream Chaser of Sierra Nevada and some other ones, and so we were probably 5 to 6 years ahead of the game. But because we've got AST and Science, and then we'll have 2 more companies that'll be moving in as well.
So it's Blue Origin that's out there in Van Horn, right? That's Bezos.
Jeff Bezos, yes.
Yes, that's Jeff Bezos from Amazon. He's launching rockets, and we link to a lot of their stories. Every time they launch a rocket, they have some kind of special thing. So you were, what Midland's trying to do is capitalize on that and basically, I guess, expand, or diversify into space. So it's not just oil.
No, it's just not just oil, but we're not naive. Oil and gas is the bread and butter of the Permian Basin and all these surrounding communities. It's the high-paying jobs. But Jeff Bezos with Blue Origin is actually partnering with AST and Science, and they'll be launching our satellites off of his missiles.
Okay. All right. So let's turn to the congressional campaign. First of all, I mean, we all know with Mike Conaway, it was very surprising that he said he wasn't going to run again. He was big, and he was on the House Intelligence Committee. He was big on national security, obviously big on agriculture. What's going to be your shtick with this?
Well, right now I'm a 4th-generation oilman out of Midland, Texas. I've been an oil and gas operator my entire professional life. I own an oil field service company. My family's got a family ranch down in South Texas where we've done a little bit of everything. And so one is I want to be the one individual that has oil and gas experience in the United States House of Representatives. There's no one there that has true oil and gas experience that can actually go to bat for this industry. The rural portion of District 11 is just as critical, especially with the farming and ranching aspect of it. And I think Congressman Conaway did a good job with that, being chairman of the Agricultural Committee, but I want to continue on that legacy. My family's had a farm for over 100 years, and we've been ranching for 30 years. And so I've got that background. I can go talk cattle with any rancher out there that wants to and understand the needs and wants of what the rural Agricultural Committee needs, because it's a tough industry. Whether you're farming or ranching, the margins are low, and it's very tough to make a profit. And so,
one of the things that Conway did or tried to do, and this is an issue we could talk about, he tried to increase the. He wanted to make it harder for you to get on food stamps, and it wasn't that much harder. I mean, he's saying let's go from 20 hours a week to 25 hours a week, and if you're not employed, and let's increase the jobs program. He couldn't get that thing even through the Republican House of Representatives. So how do you feel about? I mean, the agricultural bill, which is about a 5-year plan anyway, but I mean, majority of that is SNAP. You know, the nutrition program.
The nutrition program, which is really probably the portion that's bankrupting part of that bill. And it's really tough, and especially that we put a little bit more requirements on there, and there's so much pushback for that because they feel that they're going to be hurt back at the ballot box because they're doing what's right. Entitlements make up 70% of our federal government's budget. And then when you look at almost $800 billion for the DOD, there's really not much left for the rest of our government, which there shouldn't be. Federal government needs to be getting smaller. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem in Washington, D.C., and it's because we don't prioritize what our needs and wants are. But with entitlements taking 70% of everything, 70 cents of every dollar that we send to the IRS is going to entitlement programs, that really is kind of putting us at a disadvantage for our federal government, especially when you look at infrastructure, transportation, issues that we need to be focusing on. The interstate system was built back in the 1950s. Overpasses and bridges have a lifespan, and we really need to start focusing back on that concept.
Well, when you talk entitlements, it's always great. Everyone's all for breaking or cutting entitlements until you mention their entitlement.
No, until you mention Social Security, Medicare, or those issues right there.
Right.
What the federal government did not do us a favor is back in the day when they started taking money out of the Social Security fund and using it for other programs. That's why Social Security is going bankrupt, is because, number one, we broke our promise to the people of the United States by taking away their money they put in there. My generation is going to struggle to see a dime of everything we're putting into Social Security right now, and that's a travesty, and it's a broken system and something that needs to be tackled. What the overall solution is, I couldn't just give you that definite answer right now because it's an extremely complex issue, but it's something that is definitely bankrupting this country. With $22 trillion worth of debt, we are bankrupting our country. And what's happening is, you look at Russia. The reason we won the Cold War is because Russia went bankrupt. They went bankrupt by nation building in Afghanistan. I don't want us to repeat history and do that as well.
Well, I know a lot of oil men, and one of their biggest gripes about the national economy is the amount of debt the United States has, and that right there is holding us back from 4, 5, 6% growth. You know, that's what they're saying. That is really holding our growth back. All right, more on the oil industry. Another thing Conway was really adamant about getting was all these pipelines coming into the Delaware and into the Permian Basin, and also dredging and making it deeper in Corpus Christi.
Oh, Port Corpus Christi, yeah.
So they get what they call the VLCCs, very large crude containers.
2 million barrels of crude tankers getting out. That's the ones you need to get out.
One of the issues that we have right now, from what I understand, is these Permian producers can't produce or can't transport their crude to market, so there's a price. It's holding the price down.
So it's what we call it a transportation deduct, and the reason that is because we've reached capacity on all of our lines. However, that's going to come probably. We should have enough capacity by the end of 2019. Industry is very well about taking care of putting the infrastructure in place to get our product to market. And so we're really starting to see an unbelievable amount of pipelines get put in place. I know some major operators are putting in 1 million barrel a day product from the Delaware Basin down to Houston, Texas. And so we're already seeing industry step up to that. That deduct is getting smaller and smaller because you're starting not to see it. It was pretty high. It was about $10 to $15 a barrel back when we were just completely at a standstill because we were producing more product than we could possibly put into our pipelines. And same thing with natural gas. When you're seeing all the flaring happening, there's no capacity in the natural gas lines. We're starting to see that kind of move forward. We're also looking at some partnerships with putting a natural gas line in to go to Mexico and get some rid of our product down in that way. We have more natural gas than we have oil in this region. Granted, there is an unbelievable amount of crude oil in the Permian Basin, but so much is natural gas as well too. And so it's always critical, but these pipelines are getting put in place. They're getting down to Houston, they're getting down to Corpus Christi as we're starting to see that product go out there. Whenever we got rid of the export ban and let the American oil and gas producer play on the same level field as every other producer in this world, that was a step in the right direction. And the fear was that the price of gas would go up. Well, it's actually the opposite. Gas is tied to Brent pricing. We do WTI pricing. And so what that did is it actually brought Brent down, bringing the price of gas down. Gas is lower today than it was this time last year.
Right. All right, getting back onto the gas, we're building the pipelines down to the border with Mexico. Conway's last hurrah in the Congress is to pass the USMCA. Let me say that it was USMCA, the new NAFTA, NAFTA 2.0. What do you see as the barriers to getting NAFTA 2.0 passed and the better arrangement we would have with Mexico?
Politicians. I think
Okay.
President Trump has put together a plan that levels the playing field, that actually quits letting other countries and our neighbors take advantage of us and take advantage of the average U.S. citizen. And so we have to put our egos, check our egos at the door and do what's right for America. But you're going to have any type of opposition in Washington, D.C. As long as President Trump is president, the Democrats are a no. And it doesn't matter if it's good for America or anything, they're going to vote no because they despise that president. And they're not going to let anything he has go through as a victory for him moving forward. So as long as the Democrats control the House will never see this go through. And the minority can say all they want to, but they're never going to get a vote on it. The Senate will pass the package, but then they won't agree to the package that the House puts through. And so we're going to be in an impasse until one side blinks, but I don't see anything happening anytime soon.
What do you think is going to happen? I'm going to open up a crystal ball. All right, I'm going to put you in the. We're going to talk a little bit about process.
Okay.
Put you in the crystal ball. So imagine you're a TV host or something.
Okay.
And they brought you on. Who's going to win the House in 2020?
You know, I don't know if the Democrats keep with these shenanigans, especially what they did with Justice Kavanaugh, of just pushing, and the liberal media completely going after going after Trump and his appointees. President Trump has done a good job of appointing 2 conservative justices to the United States Supreme Court, and I think the American people are going to get fed up with the politics of it. And so I'm hopeful that we can win the House back.
So you're saying that the politics are coming from the Democrats,
Yes.
not the Republicans. The Republicans are sitting back and taking it, or?
Well, Republicans, sometimes we don't get along and get together, but for the most part, we're united that we need to press President Trump's America First policy and push his agenda through, because he's done an amazing job. The economy has been kickstarted again. He's starting to see funding. His process is working down at the southern border, because we have a true crisis down at the southern border. Crimes and drugs are flooding the state of Texas because of the federal government's inaction to move forward, and that inaction is to get the wall built and to secure our border and to really go out there and to secure and fight for our Second Amendment rights that we seem to become under attack every time we have another unfortunate and tragedy.
Well, with the Second Amendment, there's always a call to do something after a mass shooting. Obviously, in Odessa, which is there in your neck of the woods, you had the tragic incident last month, and earlier this month, I guess. Trump said he's going to do something.
I think we need to look long and hard before we do a knee-jerk reaction that could be an infringement on our Second Amendment rights. We already have a lot of laws in place through background checks. Drugs are illegal in this country. People still seem to find them, and that's just when you've got the rhetoric on the Democratic Party where they're going to take your guns away from you. That's not going to fly in Texas. We've got a saying, "Come and take it," for a reason down here. And that last time the government tried to do that to us, it started the Texas Revolution. And so I think we really need to think long and hard about it. I think it's a mental illness issue more than it is additional universal background checks. Those are just something that continue. They always become hot topic issues whenever we have a tragedy like this. But we also need to look at the tens of millions of people that are murdered in this country through abortion, but no one's doing anything about that. And so there's the other areas that you can look at, but I'd like to think about unborn children that have been aborted, and then we look at the individuals through mass shootings.
All right. Well, J.Ross, have a great time coming through San Angelo. We're glad you're here.
Oh, I love it down here. I came down here all the time. I went to high school in Midland, and so we came down here.
All right, wait. So let's talk football.
Okay.
So who's going to win this Odessa Midland?
Oh, Lee is.
You think Midland Lee's going to win?
Lee's 3-3. Lee's 3-0, and Permian's 0-3.
You just lost every Permian vote.
I've got Permian friends, but you got to see a good team when you see a good team. And Lee's doing really well. Permian's had some.
They're growing. They're growing.
They're growing.
Yeah.
Lee's got a really good team. They're exciting to watch. I watched them on Friday when they won like 70-6 or 70-3. But we've got some good teams, and in the district out there, of course, so does San Angelo. I remember coming down here to play San Angelo Central when I went to school at Lee, and we always came down here in the summertime to jump in y'all's lakes because we don't have any of those around.
That's right. No lakes in Midland.
Absolutely.
Anyway, it's good to see you, and thank you. You're welcome to come back here anytime.
Well, we'll be happy to, Joe.
All right.
I really appreciate you having me.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.